think I can handle those instructions. My name is Greg Harding. I'm here from Arlington, Virginia, via Kansas City. My question goes to Ms. Wilcher, but to the whole panel, and I'd like to hear what Professor Shaw has to say, and I'm sure this is a question you've been posed before. Ms. Wilcher talked about how the Office Federal Contract Compliance Program has been elevated now that ESA has been dismantled, and which was the umbrella organization, and how it's probably going to staff up more and do more work investigating. My question is as we push for not just for more equal opportunities for African Americans, or any minority for that matter, but also equal results, aren't we going to be stemming the job growth and economic development that we really need in our country right now? How is pushing for more social justice, equal results, not just equal opportunity, but equal results, good for America?
First of all, if you know the contract compliance programs, you know there are actually two parts of the investigations that they do. One is, and I'll try to be brief, I know. One is non-discrimination. And so they will continue with that staff to look at issues of systemic discrimination, which is their primary focus. Secondly is the issue of affirmative action, and by that largely means recruitment issues, outreach. For example, a construction contractor that may not have followed the required steps to reach out to recruit women and minorities. Because there's evidence that there's underutilization. In the non-construction area, one has to do an affirmative action program to see where they're underutilized and do the recruitment that's required to at least increase the pool from which one selects the best qualified. At the selection stage, the agency is to follow established Title VII law, in which the court has said you can take race into account under very limited circumstances. But primarily under the executive order program, it's recruitment, and the standard is good faith effort. Very few contractors have been debarred because of that, because of non-compliance, by the way. And I don't believe any were debarred in the last 8 years. So we're talking about issues of non-discrimination. Now, if you're arguing that that has a negative impact on job growth, I'm sorry, but discrimination is still against the principles, at least, of this nation. And I think giving others a chance to work also promotes hiring as well and gives others jobs. So I see a gain in promoting equal employment opportunity.
I would just add that I think it's a wonderful question, maybe more wonderful than you realize. But the truth of the matter is, everybody knows is that the demographics of this country are changing. They will continue to change. If we don't bring in people who historically have been excluded from mainstream opportunities, and I understand what the import of the equality results part of the question was. I'm not going to get hung up in a discussion about quotas. We all know that they're not legal. But to the extent that we're talking about opening opportunity, if we don't continue to get more people of color, more women, for example, into STEM fields, science, technology, engineering, and math, just to take one example, it rises to the point where it's going to threaten our national security interests, our abilities to be competitive, and I don't think we have a choice. Does it help our country? Does it help our economy? Absolutely. I think that if we didn't do it, that would be harmful to our economy and to our nation.
Next.
Thank you. I'm Christian Adams. I'm from Virginia. This is primarily directed to Professor Shaw, but also the rest of the panel. We've seen essentially at least 5 presidential elections go by where not a word is spoken in the debates about affirmative action, whether we should keep it, whether we should expand it. There's been similar silence in congressional elections. Would you welcome a change where there's a full and robust debate in this country about whether race-based preferences should continue? If they should, how long should they continue? And under what circumstances? Or do you prefer that we maintain the status quo during election season about this issue?
Well, let me say that there have been periodic, I wouldn't even call it eruptions, but mentions of affirmative action issues during campaigns. The speech that President Obama, now President Obama, gave in Philadelphia is a speech that obviously addressed race and, incidentally, I think addressed some issues of what we call affirmative action. But ironically, and I referred to this before, I think that as president, President Obama really is going to great lengths to stay away from race. It's a quagmire for him. It's water that he doesn't want to carry for a lot of reasons. That's why I say that he may, in some ways, have less maneuvering room on these issues than President Clinton did in terms of talking about it forthrightly. Would I like to see more discourse about these issues? I think that an honest discussion, and I don't focus on what people here call preferences, but an honest discussion about race, yeah. Race has been the central issue, the central dilemma for this country. Gunnar Myrdal called it the American dilemma, or American dilemma. It's been the American dilemma. Do we still need to talk about it? Yes. Have we made tremendous progress? Yes. Is it the issue it was 40 years ago? No. It isn't quite the same issue. It's manifested differently. Do we still have unfinished business? Yes. Should we talk about it? Yes, we should. Honestly. Even in the political process, do I have much hope for it? No.
Linda?
Well, finally, I found something that Ted Shaw and I can agree on. I don't think we will have an honest discussion about this issue. Attorney General Holder suggested that we could not have such a discussion because we are a nation of cowards. Those were his words. And in a sense, I think he's right. We don't want to talk about it. Public opinion polls have, for the last 20 years or more, shown that the American public overwhelmingly opposes the use of racial preferences in the hiring of people, in the selection of people for universities, etc. These polls, no matter how the question is phrased, so long as it talks about giving an advantage to someone, judging someone by different standards, which is what most affirmative action programs do. Certainly all the ones that we've looked at the Center for Equal Opportunity do that. In universities, people overwhelmingly oppose this. And yet, diversity is the mantra that is invoked and intoned by everybody from, Fortune 500 CEOs to the Army Chief of Staff to the President and everyone else. So I think that we are beyond being able to have an open discussion about this. The American people don't like it, but we're constantly having it basically, I think, pushed down our throats.